I'm Rich Levene, and this is Meet Me at the Gate, where we're not just talking theory, we're tackling real-world problems head-on, driving solutions that supercharge productivity and team dynamics. Every episode is a journey towards improvement, empowering you, the manager, to lead with innovation and confidence. Join us to transform everyday roadblocks into highways for success. Welcome back to Meet Me at the Gate. I'm Rich Levene. I'm your host, and I've got a fantastic show lined up. I've got Kelly Bianchi with us. She is the founder of Auction v Commerce. And I also have with me my good friend, Thompson.
Yes, Auction v Commerce is actually a universal support solution, helping auctions to have a digital support infrastructure to better connect the dealers between the auctions and all the technologies they use.
Awesome. So what about you, Kelly, the person?
Well, I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I actually got into the auction business by way of the restaurant business. And I was introduced when I was asked to put a concession stand into an auction. And from there, I became the marketing director of the auction and just kind of fell in love with the business. And I started working on the technology side. And I just walked away from the technology side to bring more support on the technology for the auctions. And I've been doing that for about, 12 years in the technology side of the auction business.
Auction v Commerce is 12 years now?
Auction v Commerce is 8, but I worked for a technology vendor prior to that and an auction prior to that.
Wow. Well, I think personally, if anybody can take care of the kitchen or the cafe at an auction, they're the best, because that's where all the action happens, right? Okay, I'm Ty, the transport guy, cars on the move. I used to own a fleet of trucks that hauled 9 cars at a time. So currently I'm helping auctions look at commercial accounts, and I'm also helping some dealers do a couple different things with their cars to get them moved where they need to go.
24 years of helping cars get to where they need to go.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Learned a lot.
All right. So for all the listeners out there, what this show is about is I'm here to help. My passion, my purpose is to help managers become better today than they were yesterday. So with that, we're looking at all different kinds of things from different aspects within the auto remarketing. We're primarily auctions, but we're also looking, going outside that. And from a manager standpoint, there's a couple of things we look at. One is, what is a manager? And then 2, what is a leader? And where do you bridge the gap? So tonight's show, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about, as a manager, bridging the gap to leadership through using tools, because any good manager, in my opinion, helps their team provide tools to produce or to execute the job. And that's where I was introduced to Kelly. And lo and behold, we had an incident happen, and I get on the phone with Ty. Ty says, hey, I got the perfect person. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kelly and say, Kelly, what is the tool that you provide to managers at auctions to help them be better performers?
So what we provide is the people, some digital workflow, and the knowledge, especially because, when you're in the auction space, you have so many dots to connect. And customers really feel that disconnect when they're trying to log into an auction and, they're trying to credentialize with their auction access, and, they'll blame the auction and it might be another technology. And then the technologies don't really solve the other technology's problem. So there needs to be someone in there to catch everything that's falling through those cracks. And that's where we come in. And not only that, but, one of the things that I always felt was if our customers are buying online, they should have some type of universal support system to be able to complete their whole process online. And that's what we expect. We're all customers of technology outside of the auction arena, right? We all use Amazon. We all do the self-checkout and things like that. So customers have a different mindset than they used to. And we're seeing more people retire, and we're seeing younger people come in, and they have that culture. So I'm trying to work with auctions to deliver that culture and to meet that expectations so that auctions can thrive in bridging the gap between one generation to the next.
So you're bridging generations.
Yes. And we have a universal app, which is the customer service side. So we have a support aspect. Somebody calls in on sale day. They can't get on because they're getting this error, and they're calling the support line, and our support people are helping them with that. In fact, our support people are actually coming in a step sooner because they are watching as people are coming in and not being able to log in, and they are reaching out to them. So we're being very proactive about that. And then we have the customer service arm of it, our universal support tool, where you go into the AVC dealer app. I'm done buying online. I want to go in and tell them I need to floor plan my vehicles. I need gate passes. I need my bill of sale. And I don't want to call the auction to do that, but I want a confirmation that the auction received my information. And that's where we intervene there.
So I got to step in because, hang on. I'm going to fill in some blanks for everybody. Rich is at an auction, and he's having a problem. The sale starts at noon, and I find out this out later, so he calls me after the sale. But anyway, the sale's starting at noon, and your online sale is having problems because your Wi-Fi is down. Is that right, Rich?
We had an internet switch go down. Yep. So that was running the internet to the outside world. Our Wi-Fi inside worked, but outside the world, it didn't work. And I think you were the only person in the universe, Ty, that didn't know that our internet was not working. Everybody else did, thanks to Kelly's technology.
So this is the best part of the story. Rich is telling me the story as he's going. It's coming to this real climax because we got the sale starts at noon. It's 11:59 and 59 seconds, and he's trying to decide should we run the sale or not run the sale, which, by the way, turns into another crazy conversation later. But nobody really said no. So Rich goes ahead and runs the sale. Well, Rich keeps getting calls from support from Kelly's team. Hey, your guys aren't able, and Rich is, and it's like, I didn't know who these people, what's going on? So the point is as he's telling me the story, I'm like, oh, we got to just get Kelly on the phone. So it's at like 6 o'clock on a Friday night, and I call Kelly, and she answers the phone. It was so great. That's entrepreneur right there, answering the phone after hours to take care of the customer. It's a beautiful experience, by the way. Thank you, Kelly.
Oh, thank you.
As I was driving down the road, and you were getting Kelly on the phone, and I'm like twiddling my thumbs, and it probably was only 2 or 3 minutes while I waited for you to get Kelly on the phone, but it felt like 10. And you guys are having a good old conversation, catching up, and then you bring me on.
Yeah. We're in the green room, Rich. That's what happened.
We knew we were having problems with the switch. And I walked in at 8 a.m. and one of our employees had received a phone call, and it was from your employee, Kelly. I get this message scribbled down and said, hey, somebody just called and they said our internet's down, and they said to call them. I'm like, okay, well, I knew the internet was down. So I call them, and I believe I'm talking to Auction Edge, who runs the software, and basically we weren't getting the signal outside of our building. So I'm listening and I'm like, yeah, I know we're down to that. Okay, we're here to help. We'll let everybody know. I said, okay, great. I got 100 million things going through my head. Fast forward to 10 o'clock. Actually, things are progressing and we're doing better. We think we're going to be able to get everything up to 100%. And I get another phone call. Hey, I'm just following up. What's going on? I said, yeah, we're still down. Great. By the way, and she says, I'm not Auction Edge. I'm with Auction V Commerce. I'm like, oh my goodness, I am so sorry. And here's what went through my head, Kelly, and I apologize, but I'm like, what the do you do anyway? How did you know we're down? All this other stuff. And that's when I was telling Ty this story later in the day. And he goes, oh my goodness, that's Kelly. And I'm like, aha, I know who Kelly is because I saw you on a different podcast, and we started talking. And then Ty's having a conversation with me, and he says, hey, well, Kelly can help. I said, great. Call Kelly. It's Friday night. I said, Ty, I need you to call Kelly. Well, it's Friday night. And I said, Ty, please call Kelly. Okay, hang on for a second. 3 minutes later, you're on the phone. But thank you. But what I wanted you to do is help us walk through. So for newbies like myself who are new to this space, I used to work at a big corporation where they supplied everything for us. And I want to hear your solution. There's other people who want to hear your solution. Boil it down 3rd grade level. What are the basics that you do to help us?
First of all, we monitor the sale. I mean, I always equate the online business with the physical business. The expectation you have, if I walk through your door and, the place is a mess and you can't find anything and you can't get from point A to point B, you're in trouble as a business, right? Well, the online has that same scenario. You go on to the business, you can't get on, you can't get here, there, all the doors are closed, the doors are locked, you don't know why you can't get in the door. Who's there to tell you? Who's watching your online business? Well, the answer is us. And we're going on there and we're seeing what's happening. That's why somebody called you and said you're down. A lot of times when the badge service goes down, the auction doesn't typically know. We usually are the ones to inform them. In your case, it was an IP issue, and it was something that the internet people had to take care of on your side. But in the meantime, customers are still at a loss. So who's overseeing the customers? There's, again, they're not physically there where you can get up on a mic and say, hey, everybody, this is happening here. Right? All these customers are scrambled for as far away as your network is of dealers. So our people are going in and reaching out to every single customer that tried to log in, and they're letting them know, hey, we're going to keep you in queue to keep you updated. As soon as we know what's going on, we're going to tell you when you can jump on. So the alternative to that is customers keep trying to log in or keep trying to call the auction. The staff gets inundated with people calling in. The customer gets frustrated because they have no idea what's going on because nobody else knows what's going on. So we become their champion. We're the customer advocate, but we're also the auctions advocate. So wherever those gaps are, if they're between the auction and their technology provider, we'll jump in there. If the gap is between the customer and the auction, we jump in there. And, the goal is to help make customers more proficient, help get the obstacles out of the way, and just make it a better customer experience.
So this is a good spot to interject this next part that I said we'll talk about later. And I find out that somebody's really upset that they did not have the online auction. Is that right, Rich?
Yes.
So somebody's a little upset, fine. But to me, if Rich, I'll let you do the details, but here's what I got out of it. The online auction all of a sudden became as important, if not more important, for this customer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so we provide a marketplace for people to buy and sell cars, and part of the marketplace anymore is technology is being able to get in through the internet. Our sale right now is roughly 50-50 when it comes time to a bidder trying to get in. So 50% of the bidders walk through the front door, 50% of the bidders go through the pipeline or log on to get there. And here's what I want to ask Kelly about is, if I'm a newbie, I'm an auction, I'm a fleet lease manager, I'm a dealer consignment manager, I work at the front desk. You have an app for people to log in, correct?
Not to log into the auction. We're not connected to the marketplace.
But you pull up your phone, you go to the AVC app. A is in Apple, V is in Victor, C is in Commerce.
Oh, well, there is a link to go to the sale. It takes you out of the app, but to go to your sale on your marketplace, yes.
Correct. So you can connect us. And now, so the other piece that I also want to cover too, and we can bounce back and forth, but you're not just here to solve the problem to say, hey, your internet's down. You have a bunch of other services within your platform that I learned about through this conversation driving home with you and Ty on the phone. And you said, oh, but Rich, we do this, and this. Can you explain what else do you do?
So there was the support side of it, and we talked about that and removing the obstacles. The other side of that is auctions still run the way they had. That saying, we're doing it the way we've always done it, and how that's supposed to be, a death sentence for a business. So my biggest thing is it's time to optimize. It's time to change those old processes and reinvent yourself as an auction. So to do that, to work more efficiently, you have to think globally. Now, auctions have a very local mentality because that's what built their business up, the local customer base and that physical presence. But when you do things online, you have to go about that differently. So what we do is we provide a digital component that allows you to scale, because if you have, let's say you have 3 salespeople and they're out on the road. Well, when your salesperson's out there on the road, they can talk to one person at a time. With all auctions, I find that their salesperson is not just a salesperson, but they're kind of a concierge, right? And everyone's calling them, where's my cars? I need recon. I need this. I need that. So our digital tool helps to make your salesperson become 100 people. Because if they teach them how to use the tools and they go out there on the road and they say, hey, you never have to wait for me to request transportation. You don't have to wait for me to get your recon or send vehicles to the auction. here's your tool. And so now they can go out to their customers and have just pleasant conversations without people calling them angrily as they're trying to, work another deal. So it's to remove that whole bottleneck, because if I have to go through one person, if 50 people have to go through one person to get to your auction, that's a very slow process for growth, right?
I got a question. How does it do run numbers, lane and run numbers, or does it?
No. When you request, so let's say I needed a consignment request. Let's say I wanted to send 10 vehicles to the auction. I can just go in and I can tell the auction, I want to send over, I need you to pick up 10 vehicles. I need them all reconned. I need them all inspected. And you send that little package over, and the customer gets an immediate confirmation that says, hey, we got you. You're good. And then the auction receives that and says, okay, they're going to need 10 numbers. So now they reserve the numbers. And as they complete their task in reserving the numbers, the next step is it goes over to the transportation department. Now it's on their board. Transportation goes and picks up that request, and they complete that request. Now it goes over to the recon department or the inspection department. And then they complete, and it goes through the whole cycle, and you're passing that baton. And the other department knows that they have vehicles that aren't there yet in their department, but they're going to be coming to their department. So everybody has a heads up. The transparency is, it's centralized communication, and everybody knows what's going on.
Whoa.
Which is awesome. And if I'm a buyer, if I understand correctly, I just bought a car and now I want to request a PSI. I can do that through your app, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And arbitration.
I was going to just say that. I bought a car and I don't like it. It was green light structure, but now I think it's got a bad transmission. So you're able to, from the app as a dealer, go in there and put that in, correct?
Yes. And if I'm in Tennessee and you're in Houston and I get my car, 5 days later or whenever it is, and it's a Sunday or whatever, and it's beyond auction hours and I need to arbitrate, the thing is that customers should not have to wait until you're open to engage with your business. They should be able to have the tools to be able to engage with you, and your business should be operating 24/7.
Wow.
In this day and age.
Now, let me also add to that. I've heard you quite a bit, but I think I can go physically to the auction, buy a car or more, and I can use AVC app as a dealer, and I can put the cars I bought, I want them PSI, and I can just leave. I can pay for the car. I can do everything. I don't have to stop. I mean, I know I like you, but I always talk to the checkout ladies, and they're great, and we always have a good conversation, but the line's really long and I'm in a hurry, so I can just do it through my AVC app, right?
And that's exactly it. And one of the biggest pushbacks that I used to get, not so much anymore, especially after COVID, but what I used to get was, no, we don't want we want to talk to our customers. Our customers have to see us. And your person behind the counter is really angry right now because they're in. And I love that, because the funny thing about that is that same dealer will come back and appreciate the hell out of you because of the fact that once you start putting people into those lanes and they realize the impact of what you did, that it was a consideration of your time, your money, and they come back with gratitude because this actually is easier. But people just, that part where you have to change, that's the part where you get the resistance. I live in technology. I'm submerged in it every day, but I still have some resistance. So I empathize with those people. But at the same time, I do know that they're going to get a benefit that they're going to appreciate later. And I love that you pointed out that Rich's attitude towards it was what made the difference, because that's what I always say is that, you need a leader to lead change, because you have to be able to demonstrate that you are on board with this and that there is no fear, because that is going to reflect on your customers. If your customer sees fear in your eyes, they're not going to be apt to use that. They're going to say, well, if you don't get it, I'm not going to get it. This is your product, and we've seen that. I used to see that all the time when I worked on the technology side of things on the simulcast side. And, a lot of people, when they projected fear, the customer just was like, well, you don't know how to register. Why would I register? So the way Rich described the path forward is really the only path that actually has granted success in using our tools and just our whole program. Because, I have auctions that have experienced frustration, let's say in a single department, and they want to get the knots out of that department, and they've applied our tools. And because they were motivated to get those bugs out of the system, right, to get the frustrations out and everything else, that provoked their leadership ability to be able to enforce, whether it was to the customers, to their sales team, this is the way we're going to do this process. And they experienced the benefit of using the tools because the frustration was enough to motivate them to do that. So in some cases, it stopped at that department. Well, our other department seems fine, so we don't need it in this department. But one of the things that I would really love to get across to the auctions is that, well, apply, even if you don't have that pain that you experience with this department, apply it to this other department, because we're not trying to change it. We're trying to improve it. And that's a different story.
Yeah. Well, but the thing, I mean, you're right, because this is some of the conversations Rich and I have are so interesting, because all those departments touch each other to a certain degree, right? And it's almost like you can't go through the entire process without touching each department, if you really think about it. And so, I mean, I guess the way that I just heard what you said was, how's that working out for you? The guy's like, I'm just the transport guy, so I always want to talk to either the transportation department or the commercial accounts executives at the auctions. I really like those guys the most, because I always like to walk up to them because I always know the answer. If you have a commercial account and you're going to get repos, and I ask you, how's it going with your ETAs? Are you getting your vehicles in time? How's your scorecard? And what I always hear right off, oh, it's great, no problem. Oh yeah, really? How? I mean, so you get all your cars in 3-4 days, no problem? Yeah. So, no, okay, well, I'll talk to you later, and turn around. As soon as I get by, they're like, well, wait, hold on, I do. So how's that working out for you, right? But to me, if you can get whoever's in charge of whatever department to just have an honest conversation about what the problem is, and I think that to me is the most frustrating part, because I don't really care what department you're in, you have a problem every day, and it's usually the same problem. And it sounds like AVC has the ability to help you manage that problem in a much more efficient way.
The way you just said it reminded me, because I started reading Rich's book, and one of the things that I love that he does in there is he will say, oh, I did this wrong and I did that right. Putting out those vulnerabilities, admitting that this isn't working. I think that's one of the biggest qualities of a leader, is to say, hey, we're going to stop in our tracks. I'm not going to continue to go in the wrong direction because I've invested so much time in the wrong direction so far, and it's going to make me look bad. It's going to make me look. No, you have to be able to pivot and, get people. And it comes back to that trust, so that's the big thing with our tools in applying a new process, because when you start reinventing yourself, or I call it self-disrupting, you're intentionally causing chaos. And it's not really chaos. It's just an adjustment, because you have to get through to learning how to do things a different way. It seems like a lot more work than it is when you start, because you have to think about it. When you're used to a process, you don't have to think about it. And that's what people love. I don't have to think about what I'm doing because I do it every day. So, but you're doing it really more. It's more difficult than the new process. Once you get used to the new process will be easier. But it's just that little hump that you have to get over. So everybody has to buy into it, though.
Let's break down what you were saying earlier. So we're going to improve the process, because what you're going to give us is a tool that's actually going to map it out for us all the way from A to Z. So now we've got that. But here's what a lot of managers think. I used to think this too. I was dead wrong. I was probably considered a jackwagon, if you will, or you can use a stronger term. But you start to feel threatened. It's like, okay, if I'm not doing this and I'm not in control of it, then what's going to happen? But you need to step back, and you need to go back from another thing. And this is where I had my aha moment when I was going through my master's program. You're bringing something new in. You have to understand it. As you understand it, what are you doing? You're learning. Okay, once you start learning, then you start growing. Now, once you're learning and you're growing, now you can actually start leading. Because if you're not learning and you're not growing, you can't lead, you only can manage, because you're still doing what you always used to do, expecting different results. And that is the definition of insanity.
Yes.
Nailed it. Right out of the park. Yeah. Well, Kelly, I always love it talking to you, but one last thing. How are things going on your end? Is there anything we can do to help you push things?
Getting the word out there that, there are options, look at the playing field. That's, we have to look out there and say every year, despite everybody feeling the way they do about having physical auctions and the nostalgia of the auctions, or this is the only way it works. When people have a one-way mindset, they tend to project that onto other people that might not share that same mindset. And that's a problem. So when you do that for your customers, when you decide what your customers want, you're not doing the best thing for your business, because customers want options. And now more than ever, with the amount of options that we have, when your customers retire, who's coming and filling those positions? Not young kids who were nostalgic about the auction business from the 1970s, right? You're going to get a generation of kids like my daughter, who's 16 and can't do anything without a phone in her hand. So anything that she needs to do in life, she's going to have that mobility. It's got to be on the phone or it doesn't exist. So no matter what you do, you're not going to change the mindset of people who are fluent in technology.
So let's talk about that one-way mindset real quick. There's two things wrong with a one-way mindset. There's a lot of things wrong, but there's two I'm going to touch on. So first of all, it lacks complete ability to have critical thinking skills, which means basically without critical thinking skills, you believe that there's no other way to do it. There's only one way and your way is the right way. But that leads into one of those values I was talking about before, humility. Humility is the opposite of ego or egotistical. Ego, for me, the way I define it is waking up every morning, putting both feet on the ground, walking through the world, doing what you do every day, expecting that is exactly what everybody else in the world needs. That's an ego. And if you have a one-way mindset, you have an ego. You got up, you're going through. Guess what? Today, this is how we're doing it, because it's how I've always done it. It's how we're always going to do it. It's how I know how to do it. Don't tell me anything different. And that's not leadership. That's management, because now you're managing a process. You're not leading people. And Kelly's, believe it or not, Kelly's piece, because it brings what I call the consistency, accuracy, and transparency, builds that communication thing. That's inspiring. It's motivating. Those are two key pieces to leadership. Why would you not want to use AVC?
Well, and I love that. And here's the other thing that's important about what I do is the fact that I didn't just build technology. And I'm not a developer, by the way. I'm a citizen developer. So I just want to clarify that. Here's the thing, though. I build digital processes. And when I do this, it's not from my position. I see, there's a lot of technology providers who will bring something out there and say, I've created the answer to all your prayers. And it's like, you talk to the person who's using it, and it's like, who did they talk to when they built this? They don't seem to understand what we do, because I can't apply this. And so as I did this is more of a collaboration between myself and these auctions, because I learned what they need before and I've changed a lot of ways. Like I don't have that pride of ownership where it's like, no, this was the right way to do it. This is perfect. It's more like, okay, how can I get inside your head and do what I was intending to do, but in a way that you can receive this better and feel like it's a part of your business and what you do. And so I had this one guy, because there's always somebody at the auction who's been there for 30 years and they're the manager, but they won't touch technology, right? They will not touch technology. And so I always say, well, then I'm going to create this for that guy. And I've been successful in being able to do that because I want to make it simple enough that somebody who's been there for years is not going to feel intimidated by it. And that's worked well. So
here's what you hit that I absolutely love. You're trying to make a plan work for a 30-year veteran. It hits three things that I believe that every process, every plan, everything you ever do should be: believable, achievable, and understandable. You made it believable to him, made it understandable. That's simple. And you made it achievable. It's like, holy crap, I can do this. That in itself is inspiring.
Thank you. So with Auction V Commerce, we're working to help expand the capability of the auction to reach beyond its walls and to reach beyond the limits of its people. You know, the ability to scale is a necessity when you're online. You have to be able to let as many customers do business with you as possible. And as a manager, you have to be able to oversee that business. So we kind of bring everything into focus operationally because we centralize that communication and we give that transparency and that outreach to customers and allow customers to engage with your business outside the hours of operations. So you're not limited, you have tools and you have the visibility and you can build the trust with those digital customers. They always say, you know, the auction business is a relationship business. But the question that I would prompt you to ask yourself is, how is your auction a digital relationship business?
So if a customer or manager wants to reach out to you from an auction and talk to you, subscribe with you, get your service, where do they go?
auctionvcommerce.com.
auctionvcommerce.com.
And one last note, but I think somewhere, and things could have changed, I think I heard you one time say that this amazing service is the cost of a part-time employee. Is that right?
Yes. We have a subscription fee of $1,000 a month. And, you know, I'm confident in putting that out there because the way we have evaluated the pricing, it would cost you over $5,000 to put in place what we've put in place. And the benefit is the collective because we are a universal approach. That is what helps to mitigate those costs.
It's awesome. Thanks, Kelly.
For the price of communication, it's a sweet deal. So I want to thank our audience for listening today. Again, I'm Rich Levene. This has been Meet Me at the Gate. I want to thank Kelly for joining us and giving us some inspiration about using Auction vCommerce. And of course, I got to thank my good friend Ty Thompson for joining us. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Meet Me at the Gate. I hope the conversations help to fuel your drive and equip you with insights to steer your team towards success. Remember, the road to success is always under construction. And until next time, keep your engines revving and your gas tanks full.